This is TWiT.
Welcome, everybody, to the first of what I hope will be many ad hoc, kind of informal conversations from the attic. Something we can do now thanks to our great Club TWiT members. Our guest today is a guy I've known for years, never met in person, never even, I don't think, ever interviewed, but I've always been a fan of. He runs the #1 coffee site in the world, coffeegeek.com. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the Coffee Geek, Mark Prince. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Great to see you in person.
Coffee.
He's having his, what are you drinking today?
This is a Colombian coffee that's produced by a roaster in Canada I'm a huge fan of. They're called Social Coffee. They're based back in Markham, Ontario.
So I don't know exactly where to begin here. Coffee is one of those subjects where everybody has an opinion. Some people's opinion is drink tea, of course. but for those who drink coffee, everybody has kind of a preferred coffee, a preferred bean, a preferred way to grind the bean, a preferred way to drink the bean, to brew it. There is it safe to say there really is no best coffee or coffee maker?
It is to a point. I mean, the one thing I really try to get people to understand about coffee is that coffee is seasonal and very perishable. Different times of the year. It is a fruit growing on trees, and it's a harvest. It's a crop, and different producing countries around the world actually produce their coffees at different times. So right now is kind of the tail end of the coffees coming from Africa, from Ethiopia, Yemen, Kenya. They were picked and harvested, January, February this past year. They go through a processing for a month or two. They take a month or two to travel over to the roasters in the United States, Canada, Europe. And about a month ago, you started seeing a lot of Ethiopian coffees, for example, showing up at, the top roasters.
So should we only buy seasonal coffee? Is that what you're saying?
If you want to get coffee at its absolute peak, knowing the growing seasons and the seasonal aspect of coffee will deliver you better coffee.
Boy, this is never something I'd ever considered. I just go down to our local roaster and buy whatever's warm.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what most people do. But you'll go, and if you go to certain roasters that really care about origin, really care about sharing the story of origin with their customers, they will talk about the seasons of coffee. I mean, the centrals, Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, Honduras, they have their own time. Colombia is an interesting country because Colombia is actually the only major producing country that actually has 2 crops a year.
So they have what, winter and summer, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Like if you know fig trees, how fig trees have that first big crop and then that second crop, Colombian coffees their trees grow in such an environment that they can do something similar. Yeah.
If I could roast and brew figs, I would. I love figs.
You should try figs on pizza. It's awesome.
I bet that's delicious.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Don't branch out, though. Focus. We got to focus. So that implies that you should drink not only coffee. So it gets picked in one of these places. Then it has to get to the roaster pretty quickly, it sounds like.
No. So coffee goes through the bean to cup. Story is the coffee is grown on the tree, the cherries mature, they harvest, then pickers harvest the cherries, and then they have to decide how they want to process the cherries, because you have to remove the bean from the cherry. So the coffee bean is actually the pit of the fruit. That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
We're roasting and grinding and brewing the pit.
That's right.
What happens to the cherry? Is it good?
We're growing a coffee tree right in my living room. And finally, after 11 years, it started putting out flowers and cherries. And they're very sweet. But the meat of the cherry is very thin. Almost 90% of the thing is the seed.
Is that because it's been bred for this? I mean...
No, that's natural.
It's how it was. I've gone to coffee ceremonies in Africa and the Middle East, and the story is it was first discovered in, I think, the area of where Ethiopia is today.
Yeah, in fact, Ethiopia is the only country that Arabica coffee is actually native to. All the other Arabica coffee around the world came from Ethiopia.
I did not know that. Yeah. So it always was this thin skin, but inside there's a bean. The early coffee brewers probably found out there was caffeine in there and said, hey, that feels pretty good. I might drink more of that, right?
They were making teas from the leaves from the coffee trees. And
which also have caffeine?
They found it made them more alert. And the old legend of coffee is Kaldi, who is a sheep herder, had lost a sheep one day. This is in Ethiopia, and he went looking for them, and he found them all around this bush eating these cherries he had never seen before, and they were all dancing around and acting strange and very alert, and he didn't quite understand what was going on, so he started chewing the cherries as well, and he found that he had this certain euphoria and clarity of thought, and it's party time with the goats, and that's the legend about how coffee was discovered.
Whether that's true or not, it probably was something very similar to that, right? I mean, it's just experiment. Somebody said, I wonder what happens when I eat this. And it worked out well. So thanks to caffeine, we can drink this thing. So the bean is separated from the flesh. Is dried?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to process it. So there's Central American coffees tend to use wet processing because they have a lot of access to water. So they literally wash and run the coffees through a washing system that will separate the bean from the cherry. In Africa and other places, they use a dry processing method where they essentially let the beans sit out on sun-drenched boards, and they raisin and dry up, and then they use brushes to separate the dried up cherry from the coffees, or from the coffee bean.
I've heard people say you want fresh coffee because coffee will mold, the beans will mold if they're left to sit too long. Is that true? In fact, the people who, what is the coffee with yak butter in it? The people who advocate the killer, what is it? Yeah, I agree. The killer coffee say, oh, no, it's gotta be, most coffee beans are moldy and you're harming yourself by grinding those. Is that true or is that not?
So I think what they are talking about, there's a specific coffee and processing style that comes from India, from the Malabar region with Sumatras. It's called Monsoon Malabar. And what they do is, so they'll process the coffee and then they leave. Now keep in mind, I mean, the green coffee bean, unroasted, is an extremely dense, fibrous thing. You could not chew it. You could not break it up.
Yeah, because we sometimes you'll get espresso beans covered in chocolate. You can chew those, but they're cooked.
Oh no, once coffee's roasted, you can chew it.
You could chew it.
But when it's not roasted, when it's in its green format, you can't chew it. It's very dense, very thick. So the processing that goes on, the dry processing, even the wet processing that they do in Central America, they still have to dry the coffee. They have to get the moisture content down to a transportable level. So that's a big part of it. But what they do with the Monsoon Malabar is that they process the coffee. Then they leave the coffee in jute bags, like in burlap bags, in these warehouses that they open up the side walls during the monsoon season.
Well, they want them to get moldy.
They don't get moldy. What happens is they get earthy and kind of funky.
Nice flavor. Yeah. They ferment.
Exactly, Leo.
Fermentation is God's gift to cooks.
It is.
I mean, so much of what we love is slightly fermented, but most coffee is not fermented.
No, it's a processing method that this is called they call it natural fermentation method for one of the ways to process green coffee. This started, and I might be wrong on this, but it started in earnest with Ethiopian coffees back in 2004, 5, 6, 7. There was a coffee that I still consider one of the best coffees I've ever tasted in my entire life that came out of Ethiopia, and it was called Beloya. And it was one of the first coffees I tasted that used the fermentation process for drying and preparing the green coffee. And what it did was it resulted in a coffee that was just incredibly, how coffee geeks, snobs like me go, oh yeah, it's got blueberry, it's got like fresh fig.
Like wine tasters, it's the notes. Yeah.
This Beloya, literally, you could give it to someone who's never tasted coffee before, and they go, "That's got strawberry." How is it infused? Did you use strawberry?
It's fruity. It's actually fruity.
It made that coffee so fruity and so vibrant, and so juicy. It was one of the best coffees I've ever had in my life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, now you're making me really want a cup. You're very good. Well done. That's Beloya, Beloya.
Yeah, now Beloya is a region in Ethiopia. So
this was a company that I showed on the screen, but there's actually
that's not the same thing. They just took the name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you can't buy it.
No, in fact, what happened was, and this was one of the big. So in 2007 and 8, I don't want to get too much into history here, but. Around 2007 and 8, they had changed the Ethiopian coffee system. The government had moved towards a more equitable and fair system to make farmers more money. So they turned everything into co-ops. That had the benefit of actually sharing the wealth of coffee sales with all the farmers there and improving lives for everyone there. But it had the detriment of taking away these single origin coffees like the Beloya. The Beloya, which on its own you could buy in 2007. In 2008, it was mixed into.
It's a blend.
It was a blend. It was mixed and it was gone. It was gone.
Oh
yeah.
Well, I'm all for fair trade. I think that's a good thing, but that sounds like a bit of a loss. So this is, even though they say this is Beloyan coffee, this probably isn't.
It could be, because I was told, I know that Beloya, the region, again, coffee changes. So around 2015 or 16. Yep, there you go.
So you think this is real Beloyan?
That one is a real Beloya. So what happened is around 2016, the Ethiopian government loosened up the co-op rules a bit, and they started allowing certain select prized coffees to be sold as single origin again.
It looks really expensive. I don't know what 99 Egyptian dollars is, but I guarantee you that's not a pound, whatever it is. So
it's worth it, Leo. It's worth
Is it?
Oh yeah.
This show is going to cost me some money. I could tell right now. So, and we only got to the beans. So the beans get dried or processed in some way, washed. I've heard washed is good. I've heard people say, oh, you don't want to wash off the husk. So you want unwashed?
No, there's different, like as I mentioned, there's different processing methods throughout the year. There's a relatively recent one that's called honey processing, which don't ask me actually what it is, because I don't know what the actual processing method is. But it's kind of a hybrid between the dry fermentation process and the wet process.
Okay. All right.
So
Joe says he loves his Monsoon Malabar, his fermented coffee. So there you go. Yeah. And by the way, you have a fan, Eric, in our YouTube chat says you're the GOAT for giving him scarce data on an espresso machine before the article even came out.
Oh,
so, yeah, I agree. Mark has been a great resource for me in improving my coffee journey. And sometime in the next hour or two, he is going to help me buy my next espresso machine, because the one you helped me buy 11 years ago went to Aunt Pruitt. The one I replaced, which is the original Breville. Then I got a double boiler Oracle, which was, okay, I love it, but it's completely automated. And the idea is an idiot like me can make a good espresso without knowing anything. But it's on its last legs. I think I might be able to get it fixed. I probably should try. But it's giving me an excuse to buy a new coffee maker. So we're gonna get to that in just a little bit. I'm gonna ask for your advice. Mark Prince is here. His website is coffeegeek.com, and I agree. He is the guy. He's the guy. So we get our beans, and then roasters. So for instance, we have a roaster in town called the Petaluma Coffee Company. They presumably, if you have somebody who's paying attention, know when to get the beans, know where to get the beans, get the right kinds of beans, and then they have a big variety. They have different roasting styles too. The one we like, which they call Godfather's Roar, is I think it's double roasted. It's a Venetian coffee style, so it's a very, very, very dark. Some people probably wouldn't like it because it's almost burned. It's very dark, but that's all a matter of. It's like a winemaker, right, or a beer brewer. It's a matter of skill and taste, and you find somebody. So there are good roasters. You have this roaster that you like.
There's a lot of. I mean, I get to taste a lot of different coffees from different roasters. The reason why I mentioned social is because I test a lot of equipment, and we review a lot of equipment. And one thing I discovered, like almost 20 years ago now, is that to be fair to the products I'm reviewing, I had to have an even standard of coffee that I use between each product.
So you want a consistent bean.
Yeah. So, back in 2003 or 4, I worked at a deal with a Chicago roaster called Intelligentsia Coffee. And for several years, they supplied me with their Black Cat espresso blend, which is what I used across the board. I paid a small fee for it. They charged me essentially the cost for the coffee. They got a lot of free promotion of it too, by the way, but
we call that a trade, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tit for tat, quid pro quo.
And then, I moved on to a few other roasters, and I think around 2017, Social Coffee, I'd heard about them because the first year the owner of that company had started roasting, he entered a roasters competition at a specialty trade show, which is called the Specialty Coffee Association of America. And he brand new, and he won the roasters competition, which is unheard of because roasters, they need apprenticeship. They need, to roast for 5 or 10 years before they really understand their craft. This guy won it the first year.
Wow.
So he was on my radar, and I tried his coffee a couple of times, and I approached him around 2017, 2018 and said, listen, I'm thinking about changing our standard test coffee. Could you send me some of your espresso? Your coffee's intended for espresso. He did, and his main blend, which is called People's Daily, is like it's the textbook espresso for me. It's chocolate. It's low fruit numbers. The body is beautiful on it. The acidity is low. I'm not a fan of like really high acidity, and I've been using his coffee as our test coffee for every espresso machine, every grinder since 2017.
Eric in our YouTube asks, what roast level would you say the social coffee blend you use as your benchmark for testing is like?
So the People's Daily is their second lightest roast. Now, their lightest roast would almost be a medium roast for some of the Portland and Seattle coffee roasters.
For espresso, you always want a dark roast.
No.
See, I'm learning. And freshness is important too, right?
Yeah.
You want to get a coffee that's that's why I go into the coffee company and say, what's warm? Because that's just been roasted, right?
That's right.
Is that fair?
It is fair. In fact, if you end up buying the Oracle Jet that's behind me, when you first set up the machine, one of the setup screens is tell us about your coffee. Does it have a roasted on date or does it have a best buy date?
Oh, you want the roasted on date, right?
Yeah, because if you get the roasted on date, you get all the advanced stuff the machine does. If you get the best buy date, it's like, okay, we know what kind of person you are. The machine is judging you.
It's judging me already. I feel like you're going to judge me when I tell you this. So we get that. I started getting that because it was what was warm, and I really liked it. It was super dark. It's very, very dark. Maybe that's something bad. And then when we were in Italy last year, I went to Tazza d'Oro, which is the premier Rome espresso place, and wonderful. And I noticed that a lot of the coffee places in Rome use Lavazza, so I started ordering Lavazza shipped, and that's what I drink primarily now.
Okay,
is that a bad thing though?
Well, Lavazza.
Is that like drinking Folgers, Italian Folgers?
No, not quite. Lavazza, I mean, it depends, because Lavazza is such a big, I mean, they're the biggest roaster in Italy, and they produce, I think, about 24 different types of coffee. So they have like their Doro line, and
I have
the Doro
barista,
Platinum line, and
the barista.
Everything else.
I should go get a bag and tell you, but
so some of their coffees are pretty good, but the thing is, Leo, is that coffee, and I think I started off the show by saying this: coffee is perishable. And
they're vacuum sealed, isn't that?
It doesn't matter though, because I'll walk you through why. One of the most important things to espresso. Now, this isn't as important for brewed coffee, for pour over and things like that, but for espresso, it's brewed with 135 pounds of pressure. The 9 bar is 135 pounds of pressure. And that pressure does a lot of different things to the ground coffee. One of the things, and there's also so many different chemical components to that ground coffee. There's over 1,200 different chemical components to roasted coffee that contribute to taste and aroma.
It's kind of like wine, isn't it? It's very much like
red wine's only about 400. So coffee is the world's most complex food item.
Wow.
Yeah. There a lot of those chemical components, those flavor enhancers, those aroma enhancers, are not water soluble, and they don't react well to water, but they do react to other things like CO2. And CO2 is the reason why you have beautiful crema on a shot of espresso. CO2,
and I love the crema. Crema is really important to me. That's that light, foamy stuff at the top, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
I really love that.
One of the things that goes on is when coffee's roasted, it has a ton of CO2. When you buy a bag of roasted coffee, it has what's called a one-way valve bag.
Yeah, it has that little valve on it to let the CO2 out, but not the air in.
Right. That's right. Because the coffee is constantly degassing and degassing. It's putting off the CO2. And if you didn't have a one-way valve system in those bags, the bags would explode.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm
gonna cancel my Lavazza subscription. The other thing, I learned how to make espresso at the Cafe Trieste in San Francisco. We bought a beautiful Cafe Trieste espresso machine for a TV show I used to do called The Site. And it was my job. They said, we didn't buy it. I think they lent it to us. They said, you can only have this if we can train a couple of your people on how to use it. So I worked for a day in Cafe Trieste with fresh. It was so good. It was a lot of the crema was beautiful. I know. And so I remember, serving coffee. And the guy said, "You don't work here, do you?" I said, "No, I'm just a trainee. I should have had a little hat." But there was another coffee place in San Francisco down the street that actually I preferred to Cafe Trieste, which is the original old espresso, bohemian North Beach espresso place. But there was another one down the beach in North Beach called Cafe Greco, and they served illy, and man, that was really good. But is that the same problem?
Top.
It is.
No, so illy is the top commercial roaster in Italy.
Higher quality, not as much volume.
Yeah, higher quality, and they are in the business of selling prepackaged canned coffee too, but they developed a nitrogen system for their cans. So when you buy illy in those cans, it's actually all the oxygen's been removed and it's been infused with nitrogen, which
kind of
reacts
like our
better.
Corovan that we use when we don't open a bottle of wine, but we just pour one glass out of it. They replace the air with nitrogen, so it doesn't go bad. Doesn't oxidize.
To get back to the CO2 thing, Leo, the first 4 or 5 days after you roast coffee, it's putting off excessive amounts of CO2.
Yeah.
And in fact, you don't want to pull shots of espresso with coffee that's less than 4 days off the roast because it actually has so much gas that when you brew the shot, the crema is just kind of weird and it dissipates quick and everything else. So 5 days after roast is really the start of the sweet spot till about.
I knew this would happen. I've been doing everything wrong.
No, let me ask you
I knew this would happen.
Do you enjoy the taste of your espresso?
Yes, but I want to enjoy it better.
You're not doing anything wrong.
I want to enjoy it better. I want it to be better. So, okay. All right. So now I'm willing to tear this all down and start fresh. Now we've been focusing on espresso.
Yeah.
Actually, we've been focusing on beans. So let's finish beans, and then we'll talk about other ways of brewing besides espresso.
Sure.
But so you want beans that are not warm, like I always get, but 5 days old?
So the sweet spot for coffee, as long as it's stored in a one-way valve bag, or when you get it home, you store it in an airtight container, is 5 to 21 days.
Okay. After that, throw it out.
Yeah.
Feed it to the pigs.
You don't have to throw it out. I think one thing I think you can do with coffee that's more than 20 days old is do slow cold brew, where you grind it up pretty coarse. You put it into a giant 1-2 liter glass container, fill that with water, put it in the fridge for 24 hours.
Yeah, I've done that.
And then filter it through paper filter.
I had the most elaborate cold brewing system. It looked like I was making meth. Because it was
I have one right up there. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
A long dripping process. Yeah. It took all day. It was ice involved, but I didn't. You know what I didn't like about cold brew? It's funny. Steve Gibson, who's also a coffee fan, although he goes to Starbucks and gets a quad or a 5-shot venti, so I'm not sure he qualifies. But anyway,
you will love this machine behind me. It does quad shots.
Oh my god. Anyway, he says he tried cold brew. In fact, we've interviewed the king of cold brew, the guy who does the, what is it called, the salt of the earth or the something of the earth. I've interviewed him on triangulation before. It doesn't have it's the acidity's missing.
That's right.
And he says, I like the bite. And I think that's a reasonable, it's again, I go back to wine. It's the complexity of the cup that makes it interesting, right?
But you can get that. I mean, if you do a cold brew where you're using water that's at room temperature or colder to extract, you're not going to get a lot. In fact, you're going to get no acidity because the acidity comes out from the application of water at around 195 to 205 Fahrenheit.
Right. That's why I didn't like cold brew. It just had no bite.
But you can get that still, Leo. You can do what's called the Japanese iced coffee method, and we actually have a how-to on the website about that.
Of course you do. There's so much to learn. We're talking to the coffee geek, Mark Prince, coffeegeek.com. All right, I don't want to get too far afield with the cold brew, so we'll just leave this as an exercise for the viewer and listener to learn about the Japanese cold coffee method.
Yeah, Japanese iced coffee method.
Okay, you have an entire how-to on the website, and in fact, I'm going to show this real quickly so people can see it. So it is. You can learn how to make this, and
this will give you that coffee with all that body and acidity, but you end up with a cold brew.
I think though so there's two ways I will always make coffee. One is I do love my espressos and my cappuccinos. The other is I will brew it, and I actually I like to brew. I have an AeroPress. I like the AeroPress. If I'm going to make a single cup, that's almost always how I do it. I have a Bodum. I like the French press. I think that makes an excellent cup of coffee as well. Mm-hmm. I even have the little Melita that you put on the stove, and that it boils, and the coffee comes spurting out the top. I think it's all delicious.
Mocha pot.
Mocha pot, yeah.
Yeah.
I think those are all delicious, and they're all, I would bet you're going to say, legitimate ways to make coffee, yes?
Absolutely.
How about a percolator? Is that okay?
That's the only one of the major brewing methods that I would advise everyone to stay away from, because percolators hate coffee. Percolators, they hate coffee.
This is your parents made coffee this way. They would brew.
No, actually they did, but yours
not
did.
your specifically, but in general, one's parents, they would get a can of Maxwell's House, and they would put it in the percolator, and they would turn it on, and they would leave it. They'd percolate it for hours, and then they turn it off and let it stay warm the rest of the day, and just drink it for the rest of the day. 18 cups later.
Yep.
Not a coffee lover's method, I think.
No, the problem with percolators is that they recirculate brewed coffee. So
yes.
reboils and reboils and reboils.
You don't want to cook your coffee.
No.
Coffee should only be cooked once.
Percolators hate coffee.
They keep boiling it. All right. So let's talk about getting from beans to brew. You got to grind it.
Yes. The most important part of any coffee setup in your home if you want a good cup of coffee.
Really? The most important?
Absolutely.
So why? That's a big statement.
This gets back to the whole CO2 thing. Say your coffee's 5 or 7 days off roast. It's got that optimal amount of CO2, but the thing is, it's contained within the whole bean. The bean is actually does a really good job of containing all that gas, those flavors. And the reason why the CO2 is important is because the fats and lipids and oils in the roasted coffee that aren't water soluble, they'll attach themselves to the CO2 molecules and get transported into the cup.
Yeah.
When you grind coffee, and the finer you grind, the faster this happens. So when you grind coffee, you're all of a sudden going from having just this one small surface area for the CO2 to evacuate from to having a factor of 100 more surface area for the CO2 to evacuate from. So the CO2 from the ground coffee starts flying out. It will fill a container from 20, 30 grams of coffee that you grind.
Oh my God. Yeah. And that's bad.
That's bad because the CO2 that is, like when you grind coffee, you smell and you go, oh, that smells so good. It
smells so good.
That's the CO2 releasing all the flavors and aromas.
The flavors coming out of the coffee.
And you want it in the cup. You don't want it in the air, so the birds can smell it.
Job one, do not make coffee that smells good.
No, if it smells good, you want to brew like as fast as possible.
Drink it now. Get it out there. Okay.
You want to brew it. You want to get water.
So you told me 12 years ago to get a burr grinder.
I did.
So my parents used to use what looked like a spice grinder with blades.
A blade grinder. Yeah. And burr grinders, there's essentially two types, and there's also really bad burr grinders too. But the two types are flat burrs, where they're two discs. One is stationary inside the grinder, the other one is doing the spinning. The aperture, so the beans come in through the center of it, where the space between the burrs is more like that. The beans come in, they go and get ground, and then spit out at the outer rim of the burr, and then go through it, a chute, and come out to whatever vessel you're using to catch the grinds. The other type is a conical burr, which is there's an inner cone, which is like a pyramid, and there's an outer cone which kind of wraps around it. And it's the same process. The coffee comes in through the more wider part of the burr, and as it goes down through the cone, it gets more narrow, and then the ground coffee spit out at the end.
Is one better than the other?
What's interesting is, and there's so much experience. This is grinders is like where a lot of the innovation is happening right now in coffee.
You're kidding? Wow.
Oh no, it's massive. Like a lot of cottage industries have popped up too, that in making grinders, like people literally making grinders in their garage, setting up a Kickstarter campaign.
I know people who roast in their garage, which by the way, don't. It's so stinky. Your whole neighborhood would hate you. They should be putting their energies into making better grinders, not better roasting.
Well, they should also probably have an engineer background and CNC machines.
It's really you need to be a metallurgist. Okay, good. So, but what's the goal of the grinder? What are you trying to do it right?
So again, like there's several things, like, and it depends on your brewing method. So when you're doing espresso and proper traditional espresso, you want, the coffee size, you want the average particle size to be around 300 microns. But you also want some variance, because the way espresso works, you want some fines, you want some coarse things, and that kind of homogenizes the bed of coffee when it's hit by that high pressure, and it leads to a more even and thorough extraction. On the other hand, when you're doing pour over coffee, you don't want a lot of fines. You want almost all the grind quality to be uniform. You want it to all be around 750, 800 microns.
My dad, who was a geologist and worked, as a scientist, had a Chemex, which it looks like lab glass. But this is back in the 60s, so he was advanced. But that's like a pour over, right? You have coarsely ground coffee in a paper filter, in a conical paper filter, and you pouring water over. I doubt he did the whole pour over technique with this the nozzle and all that. But that's basically what he was making. Yeah, Chemex was quite good. That was very good
Chemex is a little different from the V60, which is the most common and popular pour-over system today. The V60 has vanes. So like, it's a paper filter, and the paper filter sits inside a porcelain, glass, or plastic filter holder. And the filter holder has these little vanes to create air channels around the paper filter. The Chemex doesn't do that. The Chemex is designed so that the paper actually adheres to the glass.
Yes.
And all the coffee goes down through the bottom cone in the aperture at the bottom. Yeah.
Oh, this is
so because of that, you need a different grind for the Chemex. You need a more coarse grind. Because there's less flow through than there would be.
Yeah, if you grind it fine, nothing happens. It just sits there.
It stalls.
It stalls. Okay. So the grinder is important. We didn't answer. Is it flat or conical burr best?
Yeah, so for espresso, there's the current theory is the conical. If you're just doing espresso at home, get a conical burr grinder, because the conical burrs actually do a better job of that variance in particle sizes that you want for espresso. But if you're doing just pour over coffee, a flat burr is better, because that is a more consistent grinder. That said, burr design and technology has improved so much just in the last 10 years that there are now burr sets for flat burr grinders that actually are specifically designed to produce fines.
So you'll swap out your burr when you're going to change your kind of...
No, you don't have to swap it out. They're actually designed so that the finer you grind, the more fines it produces, but the coarser you grind, the less. And it all has to do with the tooth pattern that's on the grind.
So my Baratza Vario that I bought on your recommendation 12 years ago, should I trade that in for something better?
No. Baratza, that's a flat burr grinder. It's got a 54 millimeter set of flat burrs in there. I believe the one you have has ceramic burrs, and it's called their AP, which is their all-purpose grinder.
It was very expensive, is all I know.
It is, but you know what? It's worth it, and the fine-tuning you can do on that grinder for the macro and micro is pretty amazing.
It's kind of a problem because once a week, the cleaning lady comes in and wipes it off, and the knobs are all messed up. And I have to remember where it was, but I don't. The first cup coming out of there is all wrong. So
first world problems, Leo.
I know. That is really a first world problem. Apologies, everyone. But honestly, coffee is interesting because it kind of cuts across class barriers. Everybody drinks coffee. But if you're going to really start paying attention to this, it gets very expensive very quickly, right?
It does. Touch on your first point. Coffee is got such a global reach and stuff. My undergraduate degree is in history, and I love history. I study history all the time. And like a lot of people don't realize that coffee is the reason why we had the Enlightenment. We had the French Revolution. We had the American Revolution. We had the...
Wait a minute. All because of coffee?
Yeah, because before coffee, the average European and North American was
lazy and
they were drinking beer.
Oh, they were
for breakfast,
drunk.
noon, and dinner. They were drunk. And coffee gave them clarity and had them realize, my life sucks. I need to do something about it.
In Neil Stephenson's Quicksilver trilogy, he talks a lot about the coffee shops of Amsterdam and London. In the 18th century, coffee became the thing, but I never thought of it as powering the Enlightenment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Coffee is responsible for everything. It's responsible for people organizing, thinking, having clarity of thought, realizing their situation maybe wasn't as good as it could be.
Wow.
Everything.
Without
everything.
coffee there. So were Americans in the late 18th century coffee drinkers?
Yeah. So America is always, I mean, coffee started hitting French and Austrian shores and Italy shores around 1675. And around by 1750, there were coffee shops everywhere, all over, the European and neo-European world.
Wow.
But then the reason why Britain went to tea is because coffee was essentially controlled by the Dutch and to a lesser extent the Spanish.
Right.
And the Dutch cut off they were charging excessive taxes and everything else to the English for their coffee. I mean, Lloyd's of London, the famous insurance company, started off as a coffee house.
No kidding. I guess I knew that from Quicksilver. Wow, that is amazing. And then, of course, we think of the Boston Tea Party. I think by 1776, the Brits and by extension the American colonies were tea drinkers. No. So in the case of the United States, so coffee did not start making its way to Central America until about 1750. And it was all smuggled because the Dutch wanted to control the trade. So the Dutch controlled the African sources for it. They introduced coffee to Java in Indonesia, which was another one of their colonies, but they were really, really strict about the cherry and everything else being exported elsewhere. In fact, they wouldn't let it happen. So the coffee that made its way to Central America first and then Brazil second actually was all smuggled in. It was all smuggled in by people who wanted to try and plant the seed there and grow the coffee. And so by around 1750 or so, the plantations in Central America and Brazil had really started to take off. At that point, the United States or the British colonies, before that, they were importing coffee from Central and South America direct. They were bypassing the Dutch. Huh.
Yeah.
Arabica or
you
Robusta?
You could argue from the very foundation of the United States, so 1776, the United States has always been a coffee drinking nation.
We've never that tea stuff. No. Wow, this is fascinating. I love the historic angle to it, but let's get back to me.
I love you, Leo.
Enough history. Let's talk about me. Let's get back to grinders. So pay attention to your grinder. Are there like new era grinders that somebody was talking in the chat about? They love their new something grinder. Are there new grinders that are kind of innovating?
Yeah.
This guy has a Me Coffee V83.
Oh, yeah. He has a DF 83. I know which one he's talking about.
Is that good? Should I?
Yeah, it's an amazing grinder. In fact, so
now I have grinder envy.
I mentioned this about near the start of this show. A lot of the innovation in the world of coffee and espresso in the last 5 or 10 years has actually come to the grinder market.
Yeah.
Basically there was Baratza, the company that makes your Vario. They were a completely different level for consumer grinders. Grinders from like common brands like Cuisinart, Krups.
Terrible.
They were
all
just
blade grinders.
No, they were burr grinders, but the burrs were like press burrs. They weren't even like milled or hardened steel. They were cast and press burrs.
Yeah.
But Baratza was really on its own level. Baratza had no competitors because they were producing a grinder that no one could touch. And then about 10 years ago, a couple of companies said, maybe we can touch them.
Aha.
And so the Italian companies started producing better grinders and at better price points. But the real change came from a cottage industry grinding company called Niche. They're actually based in the UK, and they had an early Kickstarter. I don't know when Kickstarter started. I think it was around 2014 or 15. They had an early Kickstarter project called the Niche Zero, and they had essentially taken a lot of grinder components that you could buy, independently from Italian and Swiss sources, but they designed the shell and the motor mount and everything else so that it was on an angle. Before that, all grinders were straight. The coffee comes down, it spits out a chute, comes out the front. They designed it so that the whole thing was on an angle. The coffee would go in this way, and the chute went straight down on a 90-degree angle from the grinder. They called it the Zero because they claimed it had zero retention. So you could just put in 20 grams at a time into the top, and 20 grams would come out of the chute at the bottom. This didn't exist before this, Leo. This kind of like setup and everything else.
Yeah, there's always a little coffee left behind in my grinder. Yeah.
Or just the angle was such a game changer, for the coffee going in this way, grinding on a vertical plane on an angle, and then coming out this way. It was not without its problems. I mean, it was a cottage industry product. It was really tiny production numbers, some QC issues, everything else. But the thing is, it changed mindsets in the world of coffee grinders to the point where some Italian companies started designing, like Chiato, a company based out of I want to say Venice. They're Italian. I'm just not sure which city. They came out with a model called the E37, which was also an angled grinder, outputting the same way. 2 years after, it was based on this cottage, and there it is. There's the Niche company. Yeah. So what happened was that Niche enjoyed their success for a few years, and then a couple of Chinese companies started saying, we could do this, and we could do it a lot cheaper than they sell for. So that's why the My Coffee that the fellow mentioned earlier,
with his shuriken blades, he wasn't joking. Yeah.
He's not joking.
What? Okay, I thought it was a joke. Wow.
So the second big game changer is a grinder called the DF64. The original one that came out, I think, around 2020, was essentially the Niche Zero at 1/3 the price or half the price, and more powerful motor. And some other features that were nice. Yeah, this one here looks like it's the DF64 Gen 2, which is the one I have next to my $10,000 espresso machine in my kitchen.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's only $500. It's a $500 grinder.
Well, the Baratza was more than that, I think. And Baratza was expensive. Okay.
Yeah, this grinder, this DF64, the Gen 2, which is the one you're showing on screen right now, is a fantastic grinder. Fantastic, and it's $500.
So, but I use the grinder that's built into the Breville Oracle. Is that a bad thing?
No, Breville did a good job with the grinder, and the Oracle and their new models, they're now using Baratza burrs.
Oh, so I'm still Baratzing.
Breville bought Baratza about 4 years ago.
What?
Yeah.
Breville's an Australian company.
Yeah.
And they make appliances, but I actually have quite a few Breville appliances. I think they're pretty darn good. I'm happy with Breville.
They put more. I mean, there's no other small appliance maker on the planet that actually cares more about coffee than they do.
Okay. Well, I bought the original Breville because of you. The double boiler was nice. I could steam and brew at the same time and all that. So get a good burr grinder.
But you don't have to spend even $500, Leo. I was trying to get to this point. There's a big market now for hand grinders. I don't want to...
Oh, I'm not cranking my own beans.
Yeah, here.
Uh-oh. This seems like work.
Well, here, look at this.
That's a hand press. Wow.
That's $1,000 US.
What?
Yeah.
You could go crazy on this stuff.
Here we go.
But people are serious about
right
it because, yeah. So that's a hand. Okay, and that's going to be less expensive. There's no motor.
Well, what's beautiful about this is the Time War Chestnut C3 ESP Pro.
Okay.
It's only $100. It's got this beautiful little locking handle, so you can drop it down like that.
It is pretty. I mean, it'd be good for camping.
The grind is adjusted down there. You add your coffee up top. The dosing cup is right here. This will grind 18 grams of coffee in about, I don't know, 45 seconds. It produces a beautiful espresso grind. It does that whole particle distribution thing that I was talking about, but it also does a really good pour over grind. And it's $90.
There it is.
It's $90.
Wow.
Yeah,
you can even get it on Amazon.
C3. You can. In fact, they're all on Amazon. All the chestnut. If you scroll down a bit more, the C3, the CS, I think, or the S3. The S3. That's the one I'm looking for.
That's the one you want. The S3.
That's their new one, and it has actually, instead of having
this is the C3S. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
No, they have an S3.
Oh.
Which, instead of the adjustment being inside like this, the adjustment is outside.
Oh,
there it is. There.
Yeah.
So the adjustment
a little more
is
expensive,
but worth it.
Okay. And it's good for your forearms. So there's that.
It is. And, to grind 20 grams for pour over, it only takes about 25 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have to spend a lot on a very, very good grinder.
Yeah.
Because people become aware of it. They started to pay attention to grinding.
But the quality of those grinders, the Time Wars, another brand is Easy Espresso. It's spelled 1Z Presso. This didn't exist 10 years ago. It didn't exist. This is a brand new industry with these really high precision hand grinders. Yeah, there they are.
Wait a minute.
Best
instead of the other ones
in the world.
This is the best espresso grinder in the world.
Yeah, their J Ultra model is, in my opinion, the best espresso grinder on the planet right now.
Well, okay, it's good I didn't order the last one.
There it is.
And it's very twee. I mean, you'll really, you and your man bun will really look good grinding up a nice brew. Holy camole. And you know,
come on, I don't have a man bun.
No, this is not, no, I'm just teasing. Mostly because I'm confused as hell. I don't know what I should get. All right, so 5-day-old beans. Starting 5 to 21.
Yeah.
Get them locally, probably, right?
No, I mean, with the state of the way shipping works these days, find you could start with a roaster subscription service, like a company that there's a lot of these now that will send you coffee from like 5-10 different roasters.
Okay.
One of them, they're not a sponsor of the website, so I'll be happy to say who they are because I'm not trying to pimp someone. Is beans.com with a Z.
Oh yeah, they used to be a sponsor of our shows. Yeah.
Yeah. So Beans, the woman who runs it, Sarah, she's a good friend of mine, and her palate is amazing. I've cupped coffees with her, and she finds flavors in coffees that I'm like, wow, how'd you get that? BEANZ.com. And I'm not saying use them constantly. I'm saying use them as a discovery service. And then when you find a particular roaster or a coffee that there she is. There's Sarah right there.
Hi, Sarah.
She's awesome.
Okay. So it's like wine. You're looking for somebody with a palate.
Yeah.
That really can find a great bean. And then by the way, at the right time of year, we talked about that very early on.
Seasonal.
And then you might get introduced to a kind of coffee that you could then get locally or something like that.
Or, you know, you'll try their coffees. You'll find one that you particularly like. And then all you have to do is just contact those companies probably have their own subscription service direct.
Right.
And you could just order direct from them.
All right. Okay. So I've got my good beans.
We haven't even gotten to
my manual grinder. Now, again, the AeroPress, we were talking about it before the show began, invented by the guys who make the Aerobee fake Frisbee.
Yeah, Alan Adler.
I was introduced to it by Dick DeBartolo, the Gizwiz, Mad's maddest writer. He said, "You're going to love this. It's a coffee maker." And I got one. We have like 7 now, and we've got a travel one. Lisa won't, literally, when we travel, when we go on vacation, she will grind a bunch of coffee and bring her AeroPress and the coffee with her.
Yeah.
Which is troubling because drug dealers also use coffee to hide the smell of their drugs. So the one time she said, "Could you carry my coffee for me?" I think she was trying to get me in trouble. But anyway, so we're going to go on vacation in a few weeks. She's going to bring 2 weeks worth of coffee ground in the Baratza and her AeroPress.
Or you could travel with one of these.
I might get that. Then we can bean the beans.
Yeah.
You're always going to bring something. All right.
That's
so
right.
I think we got to talk about brewing. AeroPress is a good way in fact, I think some connoisseurs say that this is, if you care about coffee and you're going to have a single cup, this is the way to taste it for real.
Yeah, you know, the AeroPress. So I think when we were talking via email about possible things to talk about, and I told you, one of the biggest innovations in coffee ever was the invention of modern day espresso in 1947. It was nothing else comes close. But probably the next most recent.
Before you go on, who invented that? Italians, right?
Yeah, so espresso was called espresso the beverage ever since about 1905, when the Italians started manufacturing equipment that would brew coffee very quickly using steam pressure. And it brewed at roughly 1.5 bars of pressure. And it remained this way right up to World War II. But then after World War II, actually, the fellow who did this actually had the idea before World War II, but he was in Italy and they unfortunately had Germans and stuff going on. So he had to put aside what he was doing. But in 1947, his name is Achilles Gaggia. And he came up with the idea to use a calibrated steel piston spring to push a piston and pressurize the water mechanically that way instead of using steam pressure. So through his experiments, he actually found out that if he went up to 5, 6, 7 bar pressure, so between 85 and 120 psi, the coffee came out of the machine. You could grind the coffee finer, and when the coffee came out, it had this golden foam on top of it, which didn't exist before.
The crema. Yeah.
Yeah. So he invented something brand new, and he invented essentially the most efficient, complete way to extract every bit of goodness out of coffee in a very fast time.
So is it better than a drip or a brewed or
It's different.
It's just different.
They're chemical reactions and interactions and phase changes and everything else that are going on with
this is
espresso.
Chemistry, isn't it? I mean, there's so many things going on. The temperature of the water, the pressure, the time, how much coffee, how it's ground. There's so many things that go into this.
That's right. And that's why the AeroPress is interesting, because the AeroPress to me is the second biggest innovation since espresso.
Why?
Because it established a brand new brewing method and the ability to tweak that method. The AeroPress is fast. Prior to the AeroPress, if you wanted traditional brewed, non-pressurized coffee, like a pour over or auto drip, it was a 4 to 7 minute process.
Yeah.
The AeroPress turned it into 60 seconds, 75 seconds. because it introduced a bit of pressure. It introduced...
it still uses a filter paper, so it's still filtering.
It does. You can also buy metal filters if you don't like paper, too.
Okay.
But
so it's pressure plus filter.
Slight pressure, very slight pressure.
Just enough that the pressure that you can apply with your own elbow grease.
The other key thing is the AeroPress is what's called a no bypass brewer.
Okay.
Want me to explain that?
Yeah, please.
All right. So traditional filter brewing, whether it's a Melita, whether it's a V60, you put a paper filter inside a filter holder. There's all those vanes to keep the filter paper away. And what happens is that some of the coffee is extracted through the side of the filter, some through the bottom. Not all the brewing water comes into contact with all the ground coffee. So that's a bypass brewer system.
Got it.
The traditional way.
And Chemex avoids that because it all has to come out the point. So
that's
Chemex
right. So the Chemex is a non-bypass brewer.
Okay.
The AeroPress too is a no bypass brewer. 100% of the brewing water
goes through coffee. It has to. There's no other place to go. It's a cylinder. Now, what about upside down, the inverted brewing? I've seen people do that, which just looks nutty to me.
Yeah, that got invented on the Coffee Geek website in our forums.
Congratulations. It has been used by winners of the coffee competitions, right? This is like...
That's right.
Yeah.
And we have 3 bits of content about the inverted brew method. We have the how-to. We have how the inverted brew method was born. And I think I put out a newsletter article as well about it.
So why shouldn't people just use the AeroPress and forget all this expensive, fancy stuff?
They could. I have friends that only have a hand grinder, their kettle.
I'm going to get the J Ultra and an AeroPress, and I'm done.
That's right. You don't even need the J Ultra. You could get the Time War C3 for $90.
And the AeroPress is like $30. It's cheap.
$30. Well, it's 40 now, but yeah.
I don't like plastic touching boiling water. Oh,
I hear that.
We didn't talk about water and water temperature.
Yeah.
Soft water, hard water, does it matter?
It does. I really advise, especially when you're doing espresso or you're doing anything that keeps water in a closed or heated in a closed environment, always use filtered water. Always 100%. It doesn't matter how. I live in Victoria, British Columbia, and we have some amazing tap water here. All the water that goes into every espresso machine that I test and use is filtered.
Because it's an enclosed environment, the gases, there's chlorine in the tap water.
You want to avoid scale buildup. You want to scale's a big issue.
Yeah. The solids in the water, the minerals, all over the insides of your espresso.
And I also tell people 97% of what you're drinking when you have coffee is water. So why don't you want the best
drink
possible
good water? Okay.
Yeah.
And or use bottled. I guess you could use bottled. Yeah.
No.
Too many minerals.
No, Leo. I'm really environmentally focused on what we do.
Good for you. No plastic.
When I review equipment, if a company is using styrofoam and everything else to package their stuff, I call them out on it.
You know what we're doing, and I just got a coffee downtown in Petaluma. We're doing now. It's an experiment. It's called purple cups. They're reusable cups. All the stores are using it instead of giving you a paper cup. And then there are big bins all over town where you drink your coffee and you throw it in the bin. They wash it and they reuse it.
Well, that's really cool.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I love this purple cup. I guess it's a new thing somewhere somebody thought up. Okay, but that aside, don't use bottled water. You could use Brita. If I had a Brita filter, that would be good. Right.
Brita's fantastic. They're actually, believe it or not, there's filter makers now that are actually specifically working on filters for coffee production. One of them is BWT. If you're a fan of Formula One, they're one of the main sponsors.
I am. I see their name all the time on my cars. Yes.
Yeah, they do a filter system. They
sponsor the Williams, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Do they? Anyways, we're getting into the weeds there. I'm a huge F1 fan, by the way.
Me too. Yes.
They do one filter set that replaces calcium with magnesium, and introduces zinc through the filter system.
Is this good?
And it's fantastic for coffee. It's an amazing water for coffee. That particular filter has a teal, almost Tiffany blue color to it, the magnesium plus zinc one.
BWT sponsors Alpine.
Yeah, Alpine.
Sorry.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. I see it now. Wow. So I should get, it looks like they have a thing, like a big old device that I was going to get something under the counter, but it looks like they have a thing.
Yeah, there it is.
Buy a
The teal
Brita
one.
style.
That teal filter right there, that's the perfect one for coffee.
The Aqualizer. Zinc start. Why do I want zinc in my coffee?
The zinc, the minerals actually do two things with coffee. First of all, they actually add a tiny bit of kind of, I wouldn't say sweetness, but a flavor enhancer element, because a lot of the chemicals and components in coffee, and I mentioned there's over 1,200 of them, if they don't attract and attach themselves to CO2, they will attract and attach themselves to the zinc molecules.
Huh.
Yeah. Zinc is really good for your body, too.
Yes. As he drinks his glass of zinc water.
Yeah. No, actually, I have a pink drink just for you, Leo.
What is that?
This is actually watermelon syrup
yum.
and soda water.
Sounds delicious. Okay. All right. We're an hour in and we haven't even brewed any coffee yet. So
we haven't talked about your espresso machine yet.
And you have to help me shop. Although apparently I'm buying a hand grinder, which I did not think I would come away from this show with a hand grinder, but okay. But my Barazza Vario is still
a great grinder.
Very good way to go. Okay.
Yeah.
Got to improve the water. Temperature, 200 degrees?
Yeah, again, it depends on the coffee. You mentioned that you like a really dark roast, and the darker the roast, the cooler the brewing temperature you want on the espresso machine. So a French roast, I would do it like 194, 195, maybe even 192. For a very light, like there's a roaster that's near you called Nice Coffee Roasters. I've tried their coffee recently. They do a really light roast. That one I'd want to brew at 202, 204.
Okay. So, but not boiling, interestingly.
No. Boiling is death to coffee.
This is going to come as a surprise to all the percolator users.
That's right.
The people
Percolators hate coffee.
The people who hate it. Do not boil coffee. Okay, good. And boil the water before you put it through the coffee. So your AeroPress, you should do, if you're doing a medium roast, say 202, 205.
Yeah, what's funny is the one thing I've discovered, Leo, is that the temperature, the finer you grind, the more attention you need to pay to the temperature of the water.
Okay.
So I find that when I'm doing pour over coffee with, a medium coarseness to the grind, I can be with, off the kettle, like I use obviously a gooseneck kettle when I'm doing pour over coffees.
Yeah.
I find that just off the boil and enough elevation over the bed of coffee, by the time it goes through the gooseneck, goes through the air, hits the bed of coffee, it's around the ideal temperature. It's around 200.
Plus, it's really cool if you have that long.
Yeah.
You look very, very fancy when you do that.
Yes.
Okay. And AeroPress is fine. I love my AeroPress. I'm going to keep doing the AeroPress. Now, you probably drink your coffee black.
I do, but I like milk as an additive.
Okay.
One of my favorite drinks in the morning I do a straight shot of espresso, and then right away I'll do another double of espresso, but I'll steam a little bit of milk to have a macchiato.
When we were in Italy, I went to the Tazza d'Oro. Our guide said the way I always have it, I get an espresso and a little bit of cold milk, and I'll just pour in a little cold milk on top of it. Just a little.
The only time I add sugar to coffee is for cold brews, and it has to do with how your tongue perceives sweetness. The hotter, the cooler. I'm going to forget how this works now, and it was a food scientist who told me. He equated it to mother's breast milk and what is the most appealing temperature to babies. and it's usually around 100 Fahrenheit, like 95 to 104.
We will drop it on our wrists, right? To test it.
And the reason why is at that temperature, the lactose in the milk is the most tangible sweetness to the human palate. When it goes above that, it starts getting burned off and converted into alcohol and CO2 and other things. Below that, it's not as sweet to the human palate. When I was told that about 15, 18 years ago, when we were working on a guide for milk frothing, it was kind of like an eye-opening revelation.
It's on coffeegeek.com, the guide to milk frothing. Read it.
And so, I discovered that, there's a certain level of heat where sweetness is maximized and then it reduces. And that happens with coffee too.
Yeah. Okay. This is all good to know. Actually, I often I make espresso because the AeroPress is more work than I want to do. It's really easy with the Oracle. You turn it on, you put the thingamajigger. Yeah, that's got a name, but I can't remember it. On the thing, and you do the thing, and it grinds it. And you put it on the head, and you bruise it, and then you steam a little milk, and you pour it in there, and you got a cup of coffee, and it's fast and easy, and it's very consistent because I'm using a coffee machine that's designed for people like me, morons.
Right.
But I'm thinking, as somebody now who's been doing this for 12 years and is ready to get the new one, maybe I want something a little more manual with a little more control, or no?
Maybe. There's a machine that's sitting behind me right now that you might actually, it might be perfect for you.
I tried to get this machine. I think you're talking about the Jet, right? The new Oracle Jet? No.
Lux Cafe, which is $500. It's a quarter the price of the Oracle Jet.
The Oracle is expensive.
Yeah.
The Oracle Jet is even more expensive. The Oracle Jet, which you got.
No, the Oracle Jet's cheaper, actually.
It is.
Oh, yeah, okay. The Oracle Touch. So the Oracle is $2,400. The Oracle Touch is $2,800.
That's the one I have. Is the Touch. Yeah.
And the new Jet is only $2,000 only.
Okay, so that's good to know. I guess I wanted the Jet because I have to replace my Oracle Touch, and I thought, well, if I get the Jet, it's instant heat because they're not doing boilers anymore.
Yeah.
You have one there. We should probably talk about it since they went to all the trouble. Although you're going to review it for coffeegeek.com, right?
I am. Yeah.
All right. But for somebody who wants, I mean, Breville really has done a great job. For somebody who wants a cup of coffee, a cup of espresso or cappuccino that comes out the same every time and consistently very, very good. That's a great choice, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they produce, I mean, what's great about Breville is that they have an entire, they cover the gamut of prices. So they have a machine that's $300, the Bambino.
Which I know a lot of people who have a Bambino. Anthony Nielsen has a Bambino, and I love it. And I was thinking, maybe I should just get a Bambino.
Well, there's the Bambino and the Bambino Plus, and I bet you Anthony has the Bambino Plus.
Anthony, do you have the Bambino Plus? Why? What's the Bambino Plus?
So the Plus has an automated frothing system built into it that the regular Bambino does not.
Okay. Now, I like frothing with steam. There are things that will froth without steam. I want steam, right?
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, no. Those other ones you don't want.
No, that's just putting air in the milk. That's no good.
That's right.
Yeah.
And eventually, Leo, I'm going to teach you how to do latte art, so you can pour a beautiful pattern. And you need
I would, but I'm
steam.
always in such a hurry to drink the damn thing that I have no time to go with the pitcher and make the flour and do the thing. It doesn't look that hard, honestly. I think, but the problem is I have to practice, and I just want to have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
All right.
And going through the Breville lineup, I mean, they sell the world's most popular espresso machine. That's the Barista Express.
Okay.
They sell something like 6 times more of that machine than the next closest competitor.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy how.
Well, we have a dealer in town, and as I mentioned before the show, I went down to her and I said, "Can I get a Jet?" And she said, "I'll call them." And they told her, "No, not till 2025."
That's right.
So they announced this thing ahead of time, I guess.
Yeah, it was kind of leaked. They had shown it at the Specialty Coffee Association trade show in Chicago.
And then
in
The Verge
April.
did a review. That was the problem.
Yeah, that was a recent one. And The Verge, I found out, actually didn't get their machine from Breville. I think they got it from Williams-Sonoma.
Well, that's how I found out about it. As I saw that article, and I thought, "Oh, yeah, perfect timing! My Oracle Touch is dying." And although, and chocolate milk mini sips just said this in the chat, so I know it's a great name. He's a Canadian like you, that's why. And he said, and I think he's right, that Breville has a very good repair program. So I probably will send the Oracle Touch down to them. It's just
Leo. Should I be answering these questions? I see some really.
No, I'm just yeah. If you wish, you can. But before you do that. Should I get the Ninja Luxe?
I love, this machine. When Ninja contacted me about 3 months ago,
and they said, we should mention Breville and Ninja both are sponsors of your site. Yes,
Ninja is not. Breville is.
Okay, Breville is okay.
When they contacted me 3 months ago, and they sent me just a data sheet of what the machine was going to have, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way.
Not at that price.
No. And I said, there's got to be something wrong with this machine. And then they sent me the photos, and that hero image, the very first one that I think they have where they show the whole machine.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like a Ninja product. Like their products are plasticky and,
yeah.
weird.
So they're known for more consumery kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, they agreed to send me a machine as soon as it became available. I got it, and I started putting it through the paces. And this is a really good espresso machine, but it has a built-in scale in the grinder.
Yeah, we have people.
There's no Breville machine that does.
We have people at TWiT who weigh their coffee.
Yeah,
and I just mock them.
You shouldn't, Leo. Come on, be nice. Listen, I remember watching.
Sorry, but it has to be exactly 20 grams, and that's like, come on, nobody got time to weigh their coffee.
Leo, I remember watching you on the old screensavers, and you used to be so specific about, what to do in your Windows settings and in your all that stuff. And now you're making fun of people who want to be specific. I'm looking at you, Micah,
and Anthony too. We had a scale at work. Somebody brought a scale in. How to weigh the coffee. So you grind it a certain way, you get the right beans, you grind it a certain way, you get exactly the right amount. Is that more for pour overs?
Yeah, actually, again, the finer you grind, the more important it is to be specific about those weights.
Okay.
I find that for pour over, if you're off by a couple of, I tell people when they're doing pour over, just rely on a measuring spoon, because a rounded tablespoon is just over 7 grams. And we
that's
like
what
using
I do. I do a scoop.
We like
in the AeroPress. I do 2 scoops. That's it.
Yeah, we like we provide a ratio that is 7 grams to 100 milliliters when you're doing pour over coffee, which is a pretty easy ratio to figure out, especially if you're just using a tablespoon scoop.
All right, poor Anthony. I'm giving him a hard time. I'm just teasing. Actually, I respect anybody who cares enough about their coffee to put attention into it. And it pays off, because it really is, there's people, and I admit I'm off in this case. I'm just there to get the high. I'm just there because I need to wake up for for a show. And then there's people who really care about the flavor, the taste, and they're willing to put some effort into it. And I think that's completely fine.
The other key thing with pour over, especially if you're doing single service, again, it all has to do with volume. So if you're brewing a liter of coffee, you don't have to be exact about the water volume used or the ground coffee used, because the volume is so massive that, if you're off by 5 grams on the dose, it doesn't matter for the ground coffee. However, if you're doing like a 250 mil brew, like 8 ounces or less, that's when the scale is more important, because you want to make sure, if you're off by 20 or 30 mils on the water used, you're really going to change the overall balance of the coffee, because you're doing such small amounts. So that's why you want to use a scale. I don't want to get
too fussy. I like my coffee. I want a good cup, but I don't want
That's why this Ninja machine would be perfect for you.
Because really?
not only does it do espresso, and it doesn't let you really do a lot of manual control of your
That's
espresso.
fine.
It has its built-in formulas for doing a double shot and a quad shot. Where this machine has impressed the crap out of me is that it actually has really good brew coffee. It does essentially a pour over built into it, and it takes like 3 minutes to do like, a 12-ounce cup.
And it weighs it and does all that stuff, so you don't have to.
Yeah. It does it all through it has 2 portafilter baskets. One's a traditional espresso basket. The other one is a really deep basket that can hold up to 40 grams of coffee.
And it's only $500, huh?
Yeah. And
now,
then,
the Jet has artificial intelligence.
It does.
In fact, you, as you pointed out, it may judge you.
It does. It judges you. Oh, you're using Best By date coffee? Okay, we'll give you the beginner menu.
Wow. Have you made coffee with it yet?
Yeah, I only just got 2 days ago. So I've basically had 500 grams, 1 bag of coffee through it so far.
And?
Well, it's a Breville product. I mean, they know how to do espresso machines. Yeah. It's also 58 millimeters, so it's got the proper commercial size portafilters, whereas
mine's just 52.
No, your Oracle Jet's 58.
Oh, it's 58.
Or your Oracle Touch is 58.
58. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and it does the grinding and the tamping, which I noticed this Ninja does too. I like that.
No, the Ninja doesn't tamp. You have to tamp, but it has
assisted. It says it has an assisted tamper.
Yes, the tamper is really cool for it. It has a built-in spring so that it will apply the proper 30 pounds of pressure when you press down on it.
Oh, I didn't know. So it's 30. It needs to be 30 pounds.
Doesn't need to be, but that's what everyone is settled on.
I guess it would be reasonable to experiment and try different temperatures, different grinds, different tamping.
But you can't do a lot with the Ninja. The Ninja has come up with the Ninja automated. Is essentially it's using it's using the Specialty Coffee Association sort of standard for what espresso should be and what so it's a gold standard. Good. It's a very good standard. And when it does the brewed coffee, it takes it will do up to 18 ounces, and it will take like 6.5 minutes to do 18 ounces, but it will brew a beautiful 18-ounce cup of coffee if that's what you want.
So it's what people should do instead of going to Starbucks, it sounds like.
Yeah. The best thing about this machine for me personally so far is it does an authentic cold brew where it actually uses room temperature water to brew the coffee. But it also does that. Remember I mentioned that Japanese ice brew method earlier on?
Yeah.
It will do that as well, built into the machine.
Well, you just sold me on this Ninja thing. But I was hoping you would sell me on some fancy Italian machine with lots of knobs
I could do that.
And if money were no, you said you have a $10,000 espresso machine. What is that?
That one is the La Marzocco GS3. In fact, I have an article on the website that's called The Best Espresso Machine.
It's the best.
No, that one's not the best, but it's in it.
Oh, what's the best?
You have to read the article to find out.
Oh, you are mean.
It's an opinion piece where I argue that a $400 machine is the best machine in the world.
No.
Yeah.
So I should read this article before I go shopping, shouldn't I?
Yeah. You should.
Yeah. So there's the J Ultra grinder. You just did a review of that. How to make an affogato. All you need is coffee and ice cream. That's all. And the best espresso machine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show people. I'm not going to show them.
You can show it because it'll show you the GS3 that I have in my kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And it will also show the Speedster I used to have. There it is there.
That is a beautiful... See, that's what I was hoping you were going to tell me to get. That is a beautiful machine.
Oh, I sold that machine 4 years ago. Oh, I miss it.
Do you?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
But that machine's like owning a Fiat.
It's very finicky.
No, the repair bills and the upkeep on that.
I don't want that.
Like a ton.
I don't want that. No siree.
And if you scroll down a bit, so there I am working on the machine. There's the GS3.
That's the $10,000 coffee machine.
Yeah.
And you had the Strata paddle upgrade, and I think that's very important. Yeah. Whatever the hell that is.
But actually, the current best machine, if you keep scrolling down, is going to be the Lelit Bianca version 3.
That's a cute. This is something else.
Not this one.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. This is the guy who invented the GS3.
Bill Crossland.
Yeah.
He actually serviced your machine himself.
He did.
He cared so much. Wow. But this is the best one today.
Right there.
It's pretty. It's simple. It's got wooden handles.
Yeah. It's got everything.
Now, is this more for somebody who's going to take the time to really learn how to use it, right?
This one is the full hands-on artisan craft home espresso barista machine. You can plumb this into your home. It has
That's
a
my
rotary
dream.
pump. Yeah.
Someday I will have a plumbed. It's really my dream.
It does everything the GS3 does and more, and it's 1/3 the cost.
Oh, it's only $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
But further on that article, I argue that actually the Bambino Plus is the best espresso machine in the world.
And that's only $300.
$400. Yeah.
$400. Very nice. You should read the article because there are pros and cons all the way around.
There is.
But God bless Breville for making coffee easier for us mere mortals.
I am so grateful for this company because, like, I know some of the principals within Breville, and I've known them since 2009, and they really are espresso and coffee focused. I mean, they're a for-profit company that obviously has their margins, their bottom lines, knows the market, everything else. But unlike, certain appliance makers, LG, Samsung, so forth, Breville, they care about good coffee. They really do. And everything that they do within their coffee and espresso lineup is geared towards delivering a better cup. And so I have a ton of appreciation for that.
You have not cut through the Gordian knot. My conundrum lives on. Maybe I'll just use the AeroPress and leave it at that.
Just come up to Victoria, BC, and I'll make you coffee every morning.
I love that idea. One of the most beautiful cities in the world. I love Victoria.
I love it.
Coffee Geek Mark Prince. Do you want to answer some questions from our lovely chat? Now we are streaming again, thanks to the club in every way possible. Restream.io is giving us streams into YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Facebook, X.com, even LinkedIn. If you are in any of those, you see a chat, you can ask a question there.
I see one here, no mention of the Decent espresso machine.
Decent? Is it a brand?
It is. And in fact, you know how The Verge called the Oracle Jet the computer with an espresso machine attached? No, the Decent is a computer with an espresso machine attached.
DECENT?
Just like the word decent, decent fellow.
It makes espresso. Decent coffee.
Yeah, it's based on a failed Kickstarter project that was called the ZPM espresso machine. A very rich fellow bought the IP for that project and brought out the Decent based on it.
Okay. Okay.
That thing, we want to talk about cottage industry and niche. That is a very, very tiny production company. And the brewing system is such that you can control the temperature and the pressure of the water through the entire brew cycle. So if you wanted 20 seconds, the pressure to be 6 bar and the temperature to be 192, it will do it.
This is for somebody who wants absolute control.
I mean, these are like $7,500 for essentially a consumer machine. Wow.
But you have complete control.
So this one is for Mr. Google question person.
It's decent. That's all that matters. All right. Thank you, Google reviewer. He says the GS3 is overrated. The Lelit Bianca is much better.
It is. I wouldn't say the GS3 is overrated. The GS3 was a groundbreaking machine. If it wasn't for the GS3, the Lelit Bianca wouldn't exist.
Okay, there you go. How about for somebody like Pentex, who wants the Toyota Corolla of coffee machines? Like, it's just kind of the middle of the road, reliable workhorse.
Yeah. That's a really good question. I have to write an article about that.
Yeah.
I need to think about that for a moment. I mean, okay. I'm leaning towards Gaggia makes a machine called the Gaggia Classic. It's now called the Classic Evo Pro. That's kind of a mostly reliable machine that is, been around for 40 years. What's beautiful about the Gaggia Classic is that there's a very large mod market for it, where people use Arduino chips or Raspberry Pi chips to convert it into essentially that decent espresso machine, but at like 1/10 the cost.
What about, Nick wants to know in our YouTube chat, when the AeroPress is too much work, what's the lazy choice? I'm going to say a mocha pot makes a decent, not great, but decent coffee. It's very easy. You disagree.
Cleanup is a bit.
Yeah, that's hassle. True. You got a messy little aluminum.
I actually find the AeroPress is easier to clean up.
I think you're right. It's very easy to clean up. How about the Rancilio Silvia?
The Rancilio Silvia. I met Sylvia Rancilio.
Wow.
There is a Sylvia Rancilio.
Yeah.
And she actually signed a Rancilio Silvia for me.
That's nice.
The Sylvia was how I got into good coffee in the home. I bought one of the first production line versions of it back in 1999. I had prior to Coffee Geek, I had another website called coffeekid.com, which I had a Rancilio Silvia fan site on. I showed people how to get the most out of the machine.
You were serious. You loved that thing.
I did.
I forget your first, do you?
That is true. And I still have my first version of it. So the Sylvia's time has come and gone, though.
Yeah. I think I would agree with Rob Keys, who says the Melita 1-cup pour over. That's a very basic filter system. They got paper filters.
Oh, wait.
Although I say the Chemex. If you're going to do that, get a Chemex. Maybe, yeah. No,
the V60, the Hario V60.
The Hario V60.
Yeah, you can pick up a starter system for it, which includes like a 500 milliliter pitcher, the filter holder, and papers for $22.
Okay, and it's a drip system.
It's a drip pour over system that's based on a cone instead.
But it's ceramic. Well, actually, they make ceramic and plastic. It looks.
Yeah, ceramic, plastic, and glass, and copper, steel.
Okay. Ooh, they're pretty.
Yeah, they are.
And you think why better than a Melita? Because it's not plastic?
The Hario's newer technology. The Melita filter system is based on a design that Melita Benz came up with in 19.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a review for this. The Swirin.
What the heck?
It's the V60, but without it's just the veins.
Wouldn't the coffee leak out the side?
No. I reviewed it. It's up on Coffee Geek. So if you just search for that word on Coffee Geek, you'll get the article we have. When I started evaluating this product, I thought for sure the water would all flow out the sides.
Yeah.
It actually it flows less than the standard V60 because of the water adhesion principle. When the filter's right up against the side of the filter, the water is attracted through the filter to the porcelain wall.
And it is, in fact, an all-flow device. It doesn't, all the coffee hits, right?
Yeah. So it's not a no bypass, but it has less bypass than the traditional filter one.
Okay.
It's weird.
People have lots of questions for you. Mark Pelletier, who is an old friend of the show this week in virology, says, I use a Flare Pro 2.
Yeah. See that thing there that I'm pointing at that's a bit blurry on the wall there?
Yeah.
That is a Super Cop wall-mounted manual espresso machine. $800. It is amazing. Amazing. And the reason why it's $800 is a very small production run company. Do
you, when you get up in the morning, do you have hard time deciding what to do?
No, I always head to the GS3, and the very first coffee I have every day is an Americano. An Americano.
An Americano.
Yeah.
That's where you brew an espresso and you add water to it.
Yeah, 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 parts water to 1 part espresso.
Lisa just started drinking Americanos. She likes the Oracle Touch will do an Americano.
Yes.
She likes it.
I love Americanos.
Okay.
It's basically pour over coffee, but using espresso instead of just standard. So the extraction is better.
This is fun. I like talking about coffee. I hope you enjoy it too. And I thank Mark Prince, the Coffee Geek. Everybody must go to coffeegeek.com. That's really the world's most read coffee and espresso resource. And for good reason. It is for people who love this. I know it's just a slogan, but
no, we say that because we've been around for 20 years, so our web pages have been viewed more than anything else.
You deserve to be the most read. But you know what? I find it's the same thing with coffee. The most used, the most read, not always the best.
Hey, Leo, there's the Olympia Express, the thing I just showed you a couple of minutes ago.
It is a lever machine.
US dollars.
Now, how much?
$1,000 US.
And you do all the work.
Yep.
And do you have to pay close attention to the pressure gauge to make sure you're doing it right?
Yeah, and you have to preheat the crap out of this thing. You have to run
forget
a lot of water through it.
Forget about it. That's just somebody showing off. Oh, look, it comes in a special
look at the nice case. It comes in. Yeah.
And it has a little spot. Doesn't provide it, but a little spot for your manual grinder.
That's right.
Not manual grinder, not provided. Okay, not included. Okay. You don't have batteries in this because, it's all you.
Yep.
Does it make a good cup of coffee?
Jury's still out on that.
Okay. This is a show-offy kind of.
It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
I think you're saying I should get the Ninja Luxe Cafe Espresso.
I think you'll like the Ninja Luxe Cafe for sure. The one thing I haven't mentioned yet about that machine is that it's the only machine I've ever had that does a real cold foam. Like it actually do an ice foam. So the foam it produces on the milk side, because it has a whisk system inside the bottom of the steam
So it
pitcher.
does do whipped milk, not steamed milk, basically.
It does both. But it has a magnetic stir, just like a lab stir,
Yeah.
Lab.
So you have to use their pitcher because it's got a special little doohickey in it.
So it will do iced foam. Like if as cold as your milk is that you add, that's how cold the foam
that might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it makes that Japanese style iced cold brew.
It does a cold or brew over ice mode where it uses more coffee. It makes the coffee more concentrated. So it's when it's diluted, but it brews at the traditional temperature. So you get all that acidity that you want if you like that.
Fellow Canadian Mark from YQQ, that's Vancouver, right? He wants to know who is a good premium local Vancouver Island coffee roaster. He uses Milano right now, but he'd like a second choice. I know it's a little distance from Victoria, but do you know?
He said Vancouver Island. We're on Vancouver Island.
Oh, well then you should know. Who?
So in Vancouver Island, I like Discovery Coffee. I like 2% Jazz. But we're getting really local.
Is this guy your neighbor? Is he like your neighbor looking over the fence, wants to ask a question?
He could be.
Mark or Kevin, I guess it is.
There's only a couple 100,000 of us.
I love it. Next time, Kev, just go on over to Mark's, knock on the door and ask him. Maybe he'll brew you up something with that magic hand press.
This is my new favorite show. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's better than any of the other shows we do, Mark. So maybe we should do it again, huh? How do you take your cold brew?
With nitro.
Oh, you like the nitro cold brew?
Haven't even gotten into that yet.
There are a lot of people in town who do that because the Petaluma is a beer town, and so often they will have on tap nitro cold brew as well.
I have a device that was invented around 2007. It's called the MyPressy Twist, and it is a portable espresso maker that uses nitrogen cartridges to provide the pressure to the espresso. The product had problems, mainly the gas would leak. So, those cartridges are about 75 cents to $1 each. So it got pretty expensive if they leaked. But that said, we discovered when we started using that it actually made the espresso sweeter, because that's one of the things nitrogen gas does to the process. And this is why all these coffee shops now do nitro infused coffees, because it naturally sweets the coffee. Yeah.
Nice.
So I can still do nitro espresso with that device, but lately I've been just brewing a nice concentrated coffee, getting like a whipper creamer container, one of those Izzy things that you do the nitrogen capsules with. Put the coffee in there, fire up the nitrogen capsule, let it sit for like 2 minutes, and then dispense it out. I have my own nitro coffee in the home.
Man. This did not narrow anything down for me in the least. It only gave me 20 more things I should decide to get. Right.
Wait
You're
until
amazing,
you get this
Mark.
thing.
I am so grateful.
Wait until
What's
you
that?
get this thing.
What's that?
This is Breville's. Where's their logo? I don't know.
It looks like a tub of something. What is that? How you keep your beans?
This is called the Puck Sucker.
The puck. Oh, you need that. You know what?
You don't.
I need it. No, because you know why? Every time I have a chalk box that I whack the thing, the thing on, and it gets coffee everywhere. I need a chuck sucker.
Puck sucker.
Puck chucker.
The story behind this is really interesting too. The CEO of Breville did not like the whack sound from a standard knockbox, which is what this is.
That's what I have. I have a Breville knockbox, and I have to wake my wife up every day going, knock, knock, knock.
He told his engineers, come up with something that removes the puck from the portafilter but doesn't make noise. This is what they came up with.
Wow.
What it does is when I don't have a portafilter handy, but when the portafilter goes in, there's a little button here, and I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah.
There's an ultrasonic vibrator that vibrates the portafilter and releases the puck.
That's hysterical. All right, one more thing to buy. The Breville Puck Sucker.
There it is.
It might be worth it. Not to make that noise every morning.
It only works with the Oracle and the dual boiler. It doesn't work with the
new one
line. No, it works with the Oracle Jet. That's 58 millimeter.
Oh, good. All right.
But it doesn't work with the barista line of espresso machines, which is kind of weird.
That's weird. Mark, I guess we should let you go. We're on an hour 45 now, and you started early, and we had a nice conversation before the show. But you know what? This is not the last time we're going to talk coffee, because I've already forgotten everything you told me to buy. So I have to call you up now.
I don't want to come on the show and tell people what to buy either. I don't want to come on and tell people what to buy.
No, I agree, because
what to do.
Exactly. Learn and then make your decisions.
Yeah.
Go to coffeegeek.com. There's a lot to learn, and he's got a lot of articles about everything, including the hardware, but also the ideas, the concepts, the tools, the techniques. It's all there. Mark Prince is the coffee geek and has been for 2 decades. And my personal coffee advisor. Mark, it's been a real pleasure. We should do this again.
I would very much look forward to it.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Mark.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks also to our great team, because without Russell Tammany, our engineering guy, Anthony Nielsen, our creative guy, who also came in yesterday and figured out how to get stuff working. Thanks to Burke McQuinn, whose job it is to keep stuff working. Appreciate all of you, and thank you all for being here. And I will be back Sunday, day after tomorrow, for This Week in Tech at 2 p.m. Don't forget, Ask the Tech Guys is no more, but Micah Sargent will continue to answer your questions at Hands on Tech, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC every Sunday morning. I'm going to pop in from time to time. In fact, maybe I'll pop in this week and just say hi. So it's kind of like an informal Ask the Tech Guys. But I will be back for sure, 2 p.m. Pacific for This Week in Tech, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. Thank you, everybody. Now, there is no title to the show, but if there were a title, it would definitely be Pucksucker. Definitely would be Pucksucker. Thank you, Mark. Mark agrees. Mark, you're the best. Thank you, everybody. I don't know what to do now. I think I have to keep this going so that people who are live streaming it, I don't know, don't get cut off suddenly. So I'll tell you what. Cheers. Thank you, Mark. I will play some, I don't know, some legal music in the background. How about that? Got to find some legal music and then wander off like Joe Biden. I'll just wander off, and you can let's see, what do I have here? What's the longest thing I have here? I can't play that. That's filthy. Let's just play some. I'll just play some TWiT disco. How about that? All right, and I will see you all on Sunday. All right. Have a great evening. Bye bye.
Doing the TWiT. All right. Doing the TWiT, baby.